Greetings. I just want to show you my rig that I use for playing gigs. It's a hobby, but I get paid, but I've spent a long time trying to find the easiest way of getting my gear around, and this is it. So I'll just show you. Well, you can see this is the way it all gets put together just to move it around. So you'll see there's a box on the bottom on some casters. There's a guitar, a microphone stand, and my amp in a cover with a latching strap around it. So I'll just try and tell you all the things I've got and the reason I have them. And the reason I use what looks like a bit of overkill here is a latching strap is I've had too many close calls with rubber or elasticized straps flicking up and nearly injuring, so I'm using this webbing based strap with a big hefty latch on it. I think it's meant for trailers and that sort of thing, so hopefully you can see it there. Alright, so I don't know how to show you this, but starting at the bottom, I'll get out of light. There is the box that has all my gear. It has my guitar stands, all my cables, my pedal board, microphones, microphone stand, and a few other things. Down below here are a couple of drawers I'll show you later that have a few odds and sods. So that's what it is. I think that's pretty obvious what all that stuff is. There's a bit of hardware that just holds this box to this trolley that has the wheels on it. All these wheels are latching with, sorry, not latching, have brakes on them. All four wheels. You don't want it running away from you, or you want to hold it still while you're loading up. On the back we have a couple of power points with switches. Very dark, you can't see, but this first one here, that's an IEC socket for power to come in, and here's a couple of power sockets for powering the amp and the pedal board. I don't know if you can see, but it's the Australian type of power socket. Those couple of stripes there are my daughter's nail polish, because it's all so dark, it can be hard to see in the dark exactly where the plug goes. So it tells me where the earth pin goes, which lets me align all the other, the rest of the plug. You see this bit of hardware here, that's just a hard point with a retractable pin of some sort with a hole in it for this latching strap to go in. There's another same one on the other side. Alright, so you can tell this is not a really slick video, but I'll just work my way through it as best I can. So here it is all packed up, so when I get out of my car or load in to wherever I'm playing, I'll put it all together and move it all in one movement. That's the whole point. So when I arrive, I'm going to take it apart like this. Oh God, there we are. I'll just stop and try and mount this camera somewhere. Okay, we're back recording. So this is what I do when I get to the gig. There's the strap. Off comes the bag with my microphone stand in it. Off comes the guitar. Off comes the cover for the amp. I have to stop now, my wife just got home. She'll be coming through that door any moment. Alright, we're back. I've just replayed the last video where I had to stop because my wife had come home, and I was listening to it. It sounded like I had a note of panic in my voice, like she was going to catch me doing something I'd be ashamed of. But I'm not ashamed of this. Anyway, back to what we're doing. Here we have the box. Let's see if we can get some bit more light down here. Okay. Alright, well, I've helped my wife put the groceries away so I can get back to this. I've removed all the covers, the strap, taken all the other gear off, just to show you this bit of hardware here that was holding that strap. That's also trailer hardware. The fixing point retracts. So the reason for that is obviously when I load it in the car with other gear, like PA gear, this isn't going to be in a problem or cause damage to other gear or get broken itself. I have managed to break one of those. I don't know how. They're pretty hefty. Lots of, well, not lots, a few stickers. I put them on because, well, you like having stickers, but also this is a front lid here to the box, and it only fits one way and the right way up, and those stickers tell me the right way up. At least that's what I'm saying. Just going around the box, there's a few features. This, I'll show you later, is for a gooseneck microphone stand for miking the amp. As you can see, it's a Fender Reverb Deluxe 65 reissue. Pretty powerful amp, but I like to reinforce, and we generally try and record our gigs on a Zoom R16. Mic everything up, get good sound reinforcement, and also lets you keep a demo. You might do 10 recordings and get one good version of a song. So I'm not going to talk about the amp. There's plenty of information about this amp on the internet. I've got my own custom pilot light, which is not red like standard. That's actually a clear gel jewel in there, and it glows a greeny yellow, which is, guess what? Again, my daughter's nail polish painted on the inside. Bit of tape there. Just hold these EQ, reverb and tremolo settings where I want them. They'll always move if you don't tape them, but I haven't. It's not going to be cause any permanent sort of issue. Just one point, where I had that strap over here, you can see, if you know these amps, these knobs sit a little bit proud of this surface. Even if you angle down, they're sitting proud of the surface. So if you bring a big heavy strap over, you've got to be careful not to put too much pressure on these knobs and the pots behind them. But having the guitar and the cover and the microphone stand gives enough of a breakaway down here for the strap not to touch those. So if you're going to do what I did, and pull this down with some sort of pressure and a strap. Don't make it put pressure on those pots. Okay, just show you one thing. Pull this amp up. You can see just some plastic circles cut out with a hole saw from an old plastic in tray to fit the feet, just to give a little bit more of a I don't know what the word is, but it just gives you more traction between the box and the amp when you're pushing it around, particularly those little wheels. There's quite a lot of weight here, and those wheels are under a fair bit of pressure compared to their size, so it's quite easy to push the amp off this edge here, even when it's strapped down. When I say easy, not that easy, but it can happen. Alright, now what happens next is, if I'm setting up, alright, just turning the amp around, the first thing that will happen is I take the power cord from the back of the amp, plug it into one of these power points. You see the earth pin. If you know, this is again the fits Australian standards, so the earth pins, it's configured a certain way. The earth pin goes in. Can't manoeuvre looking at the camera. Goes in there. These two, that tells me where it goes, as I said before. Oh, look out. My Velcro strap has come undone. I'll stop here and just do this Velcro. You see this Velcro is supposed to hold this together, stop it being in the way. I'll just stop there. Okay. All Velcroed up again. Sits back in the amp here, nice and neat. Now, one other thing, just move this amp closer to the light, I think. Righto. One other thing, if you can see this, here I have a bag affixed to the side of the inside of the amp. That has a replacement tube. And I'll get that out and show you. Right, from the zippered compartment of my little bag here, I have fuses, two lots of fuses. Now, I forget which is which. They're both M205s, which is the, as you can see, is the smaller kind of fuse, physical housing, the other large one being a 3AG, and these are 5 amp slow blow. I think, yeah, that's a HT fuse. That's for the main power fuse. And the other thing is, I found out when I was when I had a problem with the pot. We'll just take that zoom down again. When I had a problem with the pilot light, which burned out, internal to the amp itself, mounted on the circuit board, is a fuse, which amongst other things will break the circuit for this globe if it blows. So I accidentally blew the globe, doing something I shouldn't have been doing, mucking about with the pilot light, and had a dead amp, and out of curiosity had a look at it. Now the thing with that circuit board mounted fuse is I didn't see it on any of the schematics anywhere, and it was a simple matter of replacing a fuse, which cost me, you know, $1, whatever, for a packet, and a bit of curiosity to figure out that that's what the problem was. If I'd taken it to a shop, if they'd been a reputable shop, they might have just charged me a minimum sort of inspection fee and replacement of fuse, or they could have said it was all sorts of things, I wouldn't know. But it's not on the manual, it's not on the schematic. But if you do have a problem where you blow this globe, the pilot light, if you're brave enough, just open it up and have a look at the fuse mounted on the circuit board. Lesson learned. Good bit of information, could save you a lot of hassle and money. So this is obviously to recover. Let's just get this. Hang on. Sorry about that. Yeah, what is it? That's the rectified tube. GZ34. The other one was 6V6. So the idea here is, even though there are some tubes that in the amp itself, and that design of amp, that can be substituted for others, this gives me virtually every tube type to get out of trouble if I have to at a gig. An AT7, an AX7, a power tube, 6V6 power tube, and that rectified tube. Alright, I'm going to put this back together and put it back in the amp. Alright, I'll just put this bag, hook it back over the picture hook in there. A bit difficult one-handed. Let's have a look. There we go. That's done. So there's no more tricks inside this. It's everything else is just as you expect. There's the wonderful Jensen speaker, which is, I think, just perfect for this amp, and the reverb tank. That's about it. I can see on the back here I've made a modification here where I've taken the external jack and replaced it with a switch, a rotary switch. You can see there what that does is cuts the negative feedback, which is a modification you'll find a lot of talk about on the internet. And I've got a series of different resistor values, one setting on this switch breaks the circuit, so no negative feedback, or various levels of negative feedback. Waste of time. I tried it, yeah, it makes a difference, but Leo Fender got it right first time. I wouldn't bother. It won't turn your Reverb Deluxe, which is a Class AB amp, into a Vox AC whatever 3015 Class A amp. Two different animals, but it's always good to find these things out. Maybe someone likes it, I don't. Here's the other same bit of hardware on the back for the hook. Don't think there's anything else to talk about there. I'll just turn this amp around. Alright, just turning the amp around. The next step is, if I was setting up at a gig, is, go away dog, is to start getting the gear out. So I'll do that as best I can one-handed. Here we go. There's a butterfly latch on each side, like that, which I'll undo. Hey, there goes. Every time I put my hand there I hit that zoom. Let me take that down again. There we are. Okay, there's one on each side. I'm going to stop here. I need two hands. Alright, let's push this back to get this in focus. I've taken both the butterfly clips off the front of the case, so here it comes. There's the back of that. Point for the latch, hard point. Not much else to be said about the front. Put that aside. Now, what I have here is my pedal board, and underneath it is all my other gear. I'll just pull that out. This slides out like this, but I'll need to put this phone down for a second just to put it out. Alright, I've slid my pedal board out, which I'll go through separately, but as you can see, it's all a tight fit. That case contains my microphones. Here's cables. That there's a little box to the side there, if you can see, which contains a small towel, which, if I just pull that out, there it is there, which seems a lot of trouble to go to, just have a spot to put a small towel, but it doesn't smell too fresh. I need to clean it, but you never know when a small towel like this, the times I wished I had one, makes it worthwhile going to the trouble of putting somewhere to have a small towel just in case. Even when it's really hot and you just need to wipe your hands because they're sweaty, or get some sweat off, or some idiot spills drinks or anything like that. So, bit of effort, but another thing that I've just learnt that's worthwhile doing. Let's pull out the cables. So, XLR microphone cable. That's held by a Planet Waves cable tie. About the only thing I use from Planet Waves, and one of the best things they've ever made, these cable ties. Easy to use than Velcro. For some reason they're quite expensive, but they're just the best thing for tying cables. I use 2 guitar cables. Not very long. I'm not a big time player, so I don't need much. I don't move around on stage much. They're probably 10 foot, I suppose. I usually take 2 guitars because my main guitar is a Strat with a floating bridge, so if I break a string, you're out of business. So I also have a Les Paul, so I swap around because I like the sound of both of them, but it's not to have 2 guitars for 2 different sounds mainly. The main reason is if you break the string, I can swap over Les Paul. Now, that's pretty standard stuff. Again, they've got those really good Planet Wave cable ties. Here is a loom that I put together. I'll look at that separately. Just put that up here on the table for a moment. What else do I have in here? Well, I have, I'm just manoeuvring here, trying to get this box into the light. Alright, expression pedal. I'll explain what that's for later. The dimensions of this box, if you're doing this kind of thing, one of the restrictions or the parameters you have to work with is fitting the guitar stands in. At least that's the way I've done it. So this box has basically been designed around being able to put this type of guitar stand, which I use, I think that's what I like, and be able to fit 2 of them in for 2 guitars. So they just slide out. They sort of fit together like that, locked together. You can see there's a fair bit of dimension to them, but they come out like that. I also have my IEC cable, power cable, with a Planet Waves cable tie and a surge protector. which just fell off. I'll just put that on the table, but I'll do that in a sec. And this case I'm putting on the table, so my microphone case, open that up in a sec. And right at the back here is gooseneck. That screws in there, and I'll put a microphone in there. I haven't screwed it up so it's not on tight, and amp up the amp, mic up the amp. Right, I'll just go turn off and go through that other gear on the table. But again, there's a this gooseneck mic stand, I guess you call it, is just another thing to make less gear more convenient, all that sort of thing. Alright, now looking at the gear I put on the table. First up, two microphones, SM57 beta, sure, SM57 beta. Yeah, take my word for it, I can't get that in focus. Instrument mic can be used for vocals, but and Shure SM58 beta for vocals. Nice and neat and handy in that little case. I can't even remember what that case was for. The IEC cable with a surge protector. Couple of bucks for this unit, but the advantage of this kind of unit, its inline surge protector, is if you do get a surge, you blow a couple of bucks worth of gear and you protect the rest of your equipment. And on the assumption that it was just an isolated event, you can take it offline and plug this back in. You won't have surge protection anymore, but you're still back in business. If you have some kind of hardwired surge protector or some kind of relay based circuit breaker or whatever, you could blow things and not be able to get back into business. So you could go along unprotected at least, but at least that's what everything I've got is trying to, give you as many options to recover from experience. If it can go wrong, it will. So that just sits there. Not as easy as you'd think to find those inline surge protectors, but they're available. I think it cost a few bucks. You sort of expect that sort of stuff's going to be really cheap, but some things like I said, like the Planet Waves cable ties and something like this, they can be more expensive than you expect, especially considering you get so many things cheap from China now. This is my expression pedal. You can see it's actually just a pretty cheap volume pedal I got from a on eBay. It's a sort of a no-name Chinese thing, and the reason I got it really cheap because somehow they got their specs wrong on the glue, and this is just tacky all the time. I haven't got around to fixing that, so that's the reason I got this volume pedal cheap, and I've modified it to be, if I just get this this little wiring loom that I've fixed here, has two cables at the end of it, two plugs I should say, TRS plugs. This one with the green heat shrink on it is for a volume control or expression control. The orange one is connected to that momentary switch that I was showing over here. So expression volume, I'll explain what that's about later. What I have here is a loom. Now I've used this nylon sheathing to loom these cables together. Because these things are going to get wound up like this and to be put away and all that sort of stuff, you've got to have something that allows the cables to move inside the sheathing, not a sort of like tape them together or cable tie them together or something like that. It can't be hard, or else it's going to be awkward in a number of different ways. I have this funny large cable tie here. It's getting a bit worn out, but that holds most of it together. Now this loom has, if I just get here, a number of different things. Here's the end of the loom. Right. This one cable has 4 cables in it. This is a TRS jack, which is for amp switching of the reverb and tremolo. This is a cable for my Hammond B9, which I put into channel 1 of my amp. I'll explain what the Hammond B9 does, but it's related to I use this expression pedal, or this pedal, as a volume control for that. That'll all make sense when I explain it. Here's the guitar output, or I guess the main output for the guitar, or cable for channel 2, which has the reverb and tremolo on it, and the power cable, all wound up in this loom. So if one end of it also has another one of these cable ties here, so that'll come apart. So the idea is that one end of this loom has the cables that go to the amp, the other end of the loom has the cables that go to the pedal board. Yep, this nylon webbing is probably the best thing for this application. You don't have to get, you can just tape it together, but this just is the right thing for the job. I think I'll just turn off now. The next thing is to go to is the connecting to the amp and the pedal board. Alright, back again. Here's my loom. I'm going to connect to the amplifier. You have to give all the video going everywhere, but I dropped it. This first cable I'll plug into the power point at the back. It's too dark, but take my word for it, it's going into the power point at the back. Looks like I've managed to stand on one of the prongs. I'll just do some repairs on the road. There we are. Pushing that prong back out. It's back in. The next cable is the tremolo and reverb switching, which is going into the jack on the back, which, if you know these amps, it's just, you can't, it's too dark to see that, I guess, but there's nothing remarkable about that. This red one, I know, is for the vibrato channel, and this other one, which is a bit too long at this end, but I couldn't be bothered trimming the cable down, is going to go into here. Now, as usual, I got them the wrong way around, I think. No, I didn't. Alright, so now the amplifier is plugged into its end of the loom. I'm going to turn off and sort myself out to show you the pedal board end of it. Alright, here we go again. Now I've plugged in the amp and I've plugged in, we've plugged in all the connectors from the loom, and I've powered the IEC plug at the back of the box there that I showed you earlier, and we have power. So there's that. It doesn't really show up in that light, but it looks white there in my camera, but that's a pineapple yellow pilot light on the fender amp. So that's telling me that I have power, including power coming to this IEC connector, which goes in here. So it's a little bit like the refraction of looking into water, doing things one-handed with the camera. You can't align your hands like you should. Now I know through doing this a number of times that the other end of this loom connects in this way. Amp switching. Guitar out. B9 out. These two connectors are down here are for the expression pedal, which I'll connect in a minute. There's a couple of non-events. I don't use the MIDI connection in that way anymore. This is a pedal board that's had a few different lives, but I'll go through that in a minute. One of the things, just as an example of, if you look here, this is a power connector, which what I've done is I've taken all the plastic sheathing and I've used to get the minimum possible profile. I mean, these things are on the pedal board. They're not going to be handled roughly. All it has to do is connect. It's not going to be pulled in and out. So you can save a bit of space. You can see how tight the tolerances are between the units. I use these, ironically, the cheapest phono connectors have the lowest profile. These are the speaker type connectors, these L connectors, but they have the lowest profile of any connector. So I've generally used those. Alright, I'll turn this around and turn this switch on and explain what it does. Well, back again. The amp's powered up, ready to go. I'm going to plug in my old cheap copy that I have laying around. So there's a set list there that I have laying around to just to show you how this thing works. So there we are, plugging either one of these, doesn't matter. Don't need to switch it, it's wired to have a it's a switch mode jack, so it's wired to have a common input if there's only one input. So I just hit the strings there. There we go. We've got some signal. Alright, let's just see if I can make some noise one-handed. Alright. So this isn't going to be much of a demonstration if I have to hold this phone, but Let's start off by pressing reset. And we'll go to the first jumping jack flash. So what that's done, it's set up my M9 with a few effects. The green ones, if they're coming across in the camera, are a couple of delays, and this blue one is a tri-chorus on the M9. Preset 8 on the Nova drive, so I've got both the overdrive and the distortion in this preset. Nothing here, no tremolo, no reverb, no Electro Harmonix B9, and no boost. So that's not in the signal path at the moment, the full tone full drive, and this beast is still turned off. So let's, well, that's way out of tune, isn't it? Look at that. There we go, that is in tune. So I'm playing one-handed here. I'll just see if I can do something better with this camera, hang on. Alright, back in business. If my shaky camera's not making you seasick by now. There's my pedal board. So I've plugged the expression pedal in and all the other connectors at the back. So I'll just turn it on now. Now I'll explain what this is later, wrong side, but watch this LCD when I turn it on. There we are. Now this pedal board is automated. I'll go through the pedal board and the signal path and everything like that, but it's automated using an Arduino Mega PCB. Arduino, have a look on the internet. It's a, if you don't know, it's a like a standard form DIY hobbyist, do everything electronic circuit board. So I have a way of programming this board to run through a set list. You can see I'm pretty old, so are the songs. Battery is low. Okay. Well, that's it for now. I'll have to recharge the battery. It's down to 15%. But I'll just go through the components on the pedal board quickly. Firstly, guitar input. Switch between two guitar inputs. One thing I've learned with this kind of switch, this is a double pole double throw switch, is when you earth the jacks, earth them to the output side. Don't have a common earth on the inputs. Make sure the input earths are isolated as you would the hot signal, but use a double pole double throw signal to make sure both the positive, if you want to call it that, the hot signal, and the earth are totally isolated from each other, or else you get bleed through from one guitar to another. That's just something I found out. Anyway, my signal path. It comes into the Electro Harmonix B9. This does two things. It puts a buffer in the circuit. It also splits the circuit between what's dry, this is the dry volume, and goes into the guitar signal path, which is controlled by, the output levels controlled by this foot pedal, and what's wet, which is the simulated organ sound that the Electro Harmonix B9 makes, which goes mostly to this expression pedal controls volume. So I might give an active demonstration at some stage, but and that on my pedal board you can see there's an array of switches at the front here. That switches it in, switches it out. My signal path goes split out from the B9, buffered signal then goes to the full drive 2 MOSFET, metal oxide silicon field effect transistor is what MOSFET means. What that is, I don't know. I use this is this tape is holding this switch on the comp cut setting. That means that switches up. That's the only thing I use the MOSFET, this overdrive for. It's a really top-notch overdrive, but I've got this overdrive bypassed through this switch here. So when I switch it on, it's doing its thing, which is, so you can see the screen light, it's always on, but it's switched in and out of the signal path by that boost switch there. When it's on, it's doing its thing with this one setting. That's just a boosted, clean sound. It's fantastic. Amongst the other things it does that. And that's what I use it for. Signal path then goes to the TC Electronic Nova drive, a digitally controlled analog drive. Plenty of information on the net, but one of the main reasons I've used this one is it's MIDI controlled. You see it's got 18 different channels there, preset channels. I'm using the same one more than once sometimes, and I'm just scrolling through my set list. You can see here. You can see all the old classic party songs, but and the other thing I'm using is a multi-effects unit, which is my Line 6 M9, and they're a very popular unit. There's plenty of information about what they do. So again, if I just flip through, you can, I don't know if you can see those lights coming on and off. So each one of my songs has a different setting. The signal path then goes to the Blackstar HT Dual. Now that has no MIDI control on it, so I actually have to do the tap dance with this overdrive unit, but I know when I'm using that and when I'm not using that, so it's not entirely automated, but automated enough. The Go-Go chromatic tuner, this screen will turn green when it's tuned. Big LED readout. You don't have to. I like it. I had a TC Electronic mini tuner, but it was I just like the bigger one. Bigger the better for a tuner. So the signal path then goes from the HT Dual, as I said before, to the Dunlop volume pedal. This is a big piece of hardware, but excellent, and it controls the output level to the amp. So looking at there's my effects. There's my effects input, 1 or 2 guitars, Electro Harmonix B9, buffers, and splits the signal for B9 and dry. Dry goes to full drive 2 MOSFET. Sorry, it's not full drive, it's full tone full drive 2 MOSFET. Full tone's the company, full drive's the unit. Then to the TC Electronic Nova drive. So you notice all these things are held on by cable ties, mostly anyway. I just found, Velcro, it's messy, you have to attach it to your unit. I just use cable ties to hold everything down. So I staple them down to the board with a staple gun, and then just tie them on. Works fine. Signal path then to Line 6 M9, Blackstar HT Dual, Dunlop pedal. The switch arrays here on the front reset. That resets when I push this. I'll be pushing it now. That says reset, shut your noise. I don't know why I put that there, but I just did. So that takes the whole set list back to number 1. So when I press the next 2 buttons, which are the up and down button, which I've drawn on masking tape in whiteboard marker, it starts scrolling through the set list. Okay, and the down arrow takes it down. This button shifts it by 10, so if I want to jump around between songs, because I'll have a hard copy set list printed out, you see, if you can see, it's at number 7, your romantic song, Talking in Your Sleep, and it goes to number 17. So I press the up button, it's now gone to 18, which is What I Like About You, which by coincidence is another romantic song, the only two that I think I do, but there you go. Synchronicity. Take a Long Line, Angels, Alone With You, Sunny Boys, Australian bands, Make Me Smile, Cockney Revel, Stuck in the Middle, Still As Will, so all old classic dance songs. I'm old, I play old songs, we have party, we have a good time. The other switches, so we reset, shift by 10, down, up through the button. Tremolo, sets the amp trem on and off. Reverb, same thing. The B9, the Electro Harmonix B9, on and off. And the boost on and off. So I'll just show you those buttons as I scroll through the patches, I guess you'd call them, but through the set list. You can see they're all programmed as well, so they'll be turning on and off. The B9 hasn't started. Let's go to reset. I know there's one near the start. And we go to, there we go. That's got a few of them on. It's got all of them, all 4. Alright, these other 2 buttons here, if at any stage I just, something, someone says let's do another song or something happens, I just want to break out of the set list, I'll push bypass. Alright, everything's been, nothing's on, it sets the overdrive back to setting number 2, which is a general setting, and everything else is off, and this thing says bypass. So then I can do whatever I want. Here's the M9, I'm going to put that one there, that one on, that one on. I'll change this to channel 18. I'll put, well, they were all on before, so I'll leave them all off. I'll just put reverb and whatever on, and I can do whatever I want. When I'm finished, if I want to go back to where I was, I can either push the bypass again or just push the patch. That just takes me back to the last patch I was at. So I guess get the big picture, if you can. You'll see everything's gone back to the way it was. All these are back on. The M9's the way it was. This has gone back to channel 1. If I go up here, Pretty Woman was the song, another Roy Orbison old song. The other thing on my M9 is I've put this aluminium component on here, which I've attached to this protective bar here, just to flip around and go over these controls. The number of times my foot has slipped over onto this one here, which changes which patch, the patches in M9, I can't remember what they call, scenes, I think this not scenes, it's something called something else, but the type of scenes, the blues modulation, that's all sorts of overdrives and other things, that's weird stuff, reverbs, delays. Okay, so I'll just push patch, get us back to where we were, but that's just to stop my foot coming over and hitting that. There we have it. I'll have to recharge my phone. It's gone from 15 down to 9%. I think you get the idea that for the most part I'm just scrolling up through the through my set list with these buttons, get to the end of the song, push up. Also, what this kind of arrangement does, it still gives me the flexibility, is that if for some reason the room's wrong for the delay I've got on, okay, if I've got a patch that has delay and it's not working, I can turn it off, or if I want to, turn it off and then use reverb instead, because for some reason, you know, some rooms the delay is just a bit horrible. So I can do things on the fly but not lose the ability to go back to where I was. So you can see I've turned that delay off, and let's say the reverb, just push patch, puts it back to the way it was. Now, the expression pedal, when I demonstrate this with the amp going, the expression pedal controls the output volume of this Electro Harmonix B9. So what I'm doing is I set the guitar volume with this, and then I set the amount of simulated organ sound, and it's pretty authentic, this one, simulated organ sound out with this volume pedal. So I can mix it in with the guitar signal. I have this because I play in a couple of bands, and one band's a three-piece, bass, guitar and drums, and the ability to add this organ sound just makes it such a bigger, fuller sound that, you know, it's just good with three-piece. Another band's got another instrumentalist in the band who plays a few instruments, but I still use it a bit there because it just fills things out. It's pretty clever. Electro Harmonix, if you look it up on the web, it pretty much does what it says in the box. It's a really surprisingly good unit. Very surprised. I bought it hoping it would do what it do, and it does it. So if that's what you want to do, I don't think it works very well standalone, but for what I use it for, which is augmenting a three-piece, fantastic. So here's a vote of positive feedback for the Electro Harmonix B9. I think they've brought out another version of this because this must have been pretty successful. I'm not surprised. The only other thing is you can see that this LCD also records where these buttons are set. It's probably hard to read that, but there's the trem, reverb off, reverb on, B9 off, B9 on, boost, that's the full tone, full drive, on and off. Alright, better go charge my phone now. Alright, I'll just see if I can maneuver. Whoa, that wasn't good. Let's just have a look. Okay, I've put the pedal board up on its end to show you what's inside it, and here we go. What a mess. Let me just check the camera's getting that. Okay, that's better. Now, this pedal board as a chassis, I guess you call it, was made for something else, but I'll just point out the major components. Here is the Arduino Mega CPU board. Now, if there's enough interest in the comments in the video, I can go through the hardware and software of how this unit's doing its job, but it essentially takes some software which is uploaded through a USB connection, which is here's an extension. The USB is loaded in here, and that's just a little extension cord to take the USB up to here so I can plug in from outside. So it takes a program that tells it what all these inputs and outputs mean. Fundamentally trial and error on my part to get this to work and looking up stuff on the web, but basically this mess of wire is taking the momentary switches from the array on the front and from the switch that's on the expression pedal. It's connections to those momentary switch, connections to the LEDs, connection to this relay module here, and connection to the LCD. That's what most basically those wires are doing. There's also connections here to send MIDI signals. So this board is doing all those things. It's taking input from the switches, it's processing that input to send messages to switch through MIDI messages, the M9 and the Nova Drive. It's sending messages to the LCD display to tell that what to say. It's sending signals to this relay array to control the full tone, full drive boost. So if I just try and, so I'm pressing the boost switch in here, so I'll just push reset, get everything off. Right, pushing the boost switch. These two relays are basically doing a true bypass on the full tone, full drive. Push this one. This is doing a number of things. It's switching off the earthing out of the B9, so the output is normally earthed when this is off, and the earth is taken out of the circuit to send the signal to the amp rather than to earth. These switches here are the other relay that came on is controlling where the expression pedal is connected to. So when this is on, the expression pedal is controlling the volume to the output jack. When it's off, it's sending a signal through the expression jacks of the M9. Well, it's not complicated, I guess, if you know what you're doing. That's taken me quite a while to figure that one out. If I go to the next relay, it's like a single pole, single throw, single pole, single throw switch for the reverb, and the same for the tremolo. This relay here being on is a hangover from something else. I could program it out, but I'll get to that. But so if I press reset again, you see boost, B9, reverb, tremolo. So if I start cycling through the patches, reset again, and cycle through the patches, you can see doing all sorts. Now, the main components here are, here's the mains power in from the IC jack. That's a power supply for the Black Star. That's a power supply for this relay. That's a 5-volt power supply for the relay. If you do this kind of thing, you really need to power the relays separately to the 5 volts for the relays separately to the 5-volt power supply that the Arduino needs, and the LCD needs a power supply as well. These relays will draw more current than this Arduino power output can provide. This is pretty limited. So I've learnt the hard way, don't rely on the output from this, just get a separate. This is about a 2 amp. This takes mains in and sends a 5 volt out. Does the job. The other thing is, I've used lots of these kind of wall wart type supplies in the past. This is what's this? I can't even remember. This is a really clever unit, if I can remember the name of it. Anyway, this power brick here is Mod Tone, I think it's called. Let me see. It provides, firstly, here is a 9 volt AC output. So this unit was particularly good for my purpose because it provided 9 volt AC for the Line 6 M9. I know that you can send DC to the M9 and use it. It needs about, I forget what the stats are, it's about a bit over 1 amp, but you know, I like to do what's in the manufacturer's specification as much as possible, and so 9 volt AC. It also has multiple number of DC outputs. Now the other requirement I had was the TC Electronic Nova Drive requires 12 volts at something like, I forget what it was, but it's near, it's about 400 milliamps, nearly 500, a bit over 400 milliamps. So what I've had to do is I've had to put 3 of the outputs, because these are switchable between 9 and 12 volt, 3 of the outputs in parallel that are about 150 milliamp each, I think. So they're all 12 volt in parallel, so when they're in parallel the voltage stays the same but the amperage goes up, the current goes up, so 3 times 150, 450 milliamps at 12 volts. So I did that. The other thing is it also provides other 9 volt output for all the other pedals. So this solved the problem of the M9 power supply and the Nova Drive power supply without having to have multiple of these wall warts. It just gives you a cleaner power supply. It's just so much easier to use this kind of thing. It also has an AC outlet, which I have used for connecting from this power board, this power brick to the Blackstar power supply. It was an American type of pinout on the output of the mains here, the auxiliary mains out. So I just got a plug from America and wired it up. This probably doesn't meet many safety standards. I mean, you've got some AC here that's just covered by heat shrink, and they're not, those screw holes there, I guess, are not covered by anything, and this has mains going into it, so it's only for me. I'd never sell this to anybody, but the problem, you can see the problems with, you know, designing into a space that wasn't designed for it. If I was to redo this, it would not be like this, because one of the other problems I have is this is a cheap way of doing it. This relay array costs, you know, 20 bucks on eBay, but it is susceptible to noise. You can see these. This is the bypass for the full tone. I've got these. All this masking tape. I've got these leads routed in the way that creates the least noise. There is some noise inevitably with this kind of arrangement. You can really minimise it. You can get it to the point where it doesn't bother you at all, which I have by routing it this way. And if with a better design, you could certainly minimise the number of noise. It's not the cleverest thing in the world to put the relay with the signal right just above the power supply with all its components making noise, all its transformers, everything. But you can see that I was limited for space, so that's what it does. So just going through it again, IC input, main power brick supplying all the power supply, including power to the HT dual power supply here. All this mess here is about the switches, the LEDs, and this wiring is for the relays, and some of this wiring is also sending a signal which is buried under here to sending circuitry through to the LCD. Again, 5 volt power supply, I forgot to mention, for the relay, power supply, switching inputs and outputs. So these 4 jacks are for the B9 output, the reverb tremolo switching, the B9 volume to the expression pedal, and the expression pedal momentary switch. That's all that stuff. These jacks, that was for something else. That's all redundant. That's redundant. That's just connecting some of the 9-volt there. So that's it. I previously used something called highly liquid CPU, which was pretty good at what it does, but the Arduino is so much cheaper and there's so much available to help you do things. I've got through solving the problems of, there are a number of problems I had to solve to get to here. The first one is, how do I make the switching work? How do I make the switching work to give me all the functionality of displaying the LED, displaying the LCD display with the name of the song, driving the relays, etc., etc., and sending them bright MIDI signal, and also how do I then make it in a way that I can update the set list whenever I want to, because I have 2 different bands and the set list is changing all the time. That's taken a long time, but basically I've made this video because I got to the point where I've solved most of the problems, and I just thought someone else may be interested in what I've done. I'm sort of proud of this in a way. I mean, I know it looks like a bit of crap with all the wiring, but it's taken a lot of work and a lot of problem solving, so I'm more than happy to just put it out there and see if anybody wants to know more. Okay. I'll stop now because my family are probably wondering why I'm talking to myself. Good night.